no way I am going out any more than I have to. When the lieutenant orders us to go out, I'll go out, but I'm not going to volunteer to do that. So, should we tell the story about the...
Yeah, well, I'm going to try to pop in just a little bit.
Yeah.
Now, Frank just pointed out, excuse me, as also as being a machine gun position here. You have to move things around. Now, over the years, we've done a lot of research to kind of pinpoint and maybe put some names on some of the foxholes. And as the descriptions, if you put it all together from the veterans, from the families coming here, we kind of were 90% sure that this is where Smokey Gordon had set up his machine gun. And we were here yesterday, the day before yesterday, and actually his son, Scotty Gordon, filled in the last 10% that was missing. By the accounts of your father. So we're like, let's say 99.99% sure here that this is Walter Gordon's position.
Dad walked up when he first came here. He walked directly to it and said, if you dig right there, there's a coffee cup down there that he just made a cup of coffee right before he got shot, and it fell in his lap, and at the bottom of the foxhole it was mucked and mud from all the snow that had melted down there, and sort of just went into that and stomped in it. But he said there's a coffee cup down there better than I was drinking on Christmas Eve. I just made that first cup of coffee and
Now, as the first snow came in Bastogne, it's okay. I'm gonna just lower my voice a little bit, so you have to be extra quiet. As the first heavy snow started to come in on the 24th of December. That same day, the Germans launched their first large infantry attack, supported by half-tracks and small tanks coming from the direction of Foix, coming up here. And it's during that the first moments of that attack that Walter Gordon, who I think he was like drinking a cup.
He just brewed it.
A coffee.
Yeah.
When he got shot by a sniper from across the road, and a bullet kind of entered one shoulder and kind of got out of the other shoulder, and he kind of was semi-paralyzed, dropped down in a hole. Now Smokey was evacuated by medics back to the logging road, which is a bit like 100 yards that way, where they give him first aid, first treatment. In the miniseries, there's the scene when medic, I don't know if it was Rowe that's working on Gordon, and Lipton is checking out if he could give any help. But Gordon's lying there, eyes closed, and all of a sudden he kind of gains consciousness again, and he says, like, Lipton, get off my hand. The Lipton's like, oh, I'm sorry, standing on his fingers. Now, that's the scene, and for a long time I thought that was just made up by Holly, but apparently that's a true story.
Lipton was actually warming up plasma
under his armpit,
so it would flow. It was frozen.
Smokey Gordon was evacuated. He had multiple surgeries after the war, but luckily he was one of the guys who was able to return home and tell the story. Now, what happened when Gordon was shot is in the next foxhole was McClung
and Buck Taylor.
And Buck Taylor.
Now, for the record, Mo Alley was the one who pulled him.
Yep.
Yeah, Mo Alley.
George?
George Khalil. George Khalil.
So George, this is where your moment of
This is where your moment of glory. This is where he's.
So Mo Alley gets to him. He's one of the first guys to get to him, and the first thing out of Smokey's mouth is, "Mo, my 45," because he didn't want to happen was he didn't want to be evacuated, and then some rear echelon guy steal his 45. So the first thing he said was, "Mo, my 45." Hands it off to him, and Mo had it for the rest of the war. By the way, he used it through the rest of the war, and he immediately jumped on the machine gun because of the attack that was happening. So you don't want to have your machine gun go down in an attack or a counterattack. It's the platoon's lifeblood in terms of firepower. So he knew Mo Alley, being a smart paratrooper and had been trained well on a 30 caliber, hopped right in behind that machine gun, which was odd because normally the assistant gunner takes over the gun. Mellett had to been helping pull Smokey out of the position, and then Mo jumped in, took over the gun for him.
Yeah, and they get confused. It's best known all about other letters because in the Netherlands during Market Garden, there was a small town, or two towns that were called Slijk Eweg. But during Market Garden, they called it Slicky. The Americans called it Slicky Wicky. at the time. So no, the town of Foix has been in and out of American and German hands at least 4 times and changed hands constantly, most of the times before Christmas. And after the 26th of December, actually the Germans occupied it until mid-January, January 13, when the last assault on Foix, occurred, and that's the one that Easy Company was involved in. Now, Easy Company stayed here, dug in until the 2nd of January. And that's when they were moved out for what they call a 1,000-yard advance, which means they had to cross the main road and clear that section of the woods. Purple Heart number 2.
This section of the woods.
This section of the woods. Now that went quite well, not too much resistance, but it's well during that one night that they were over there that Donald Hubler shot himself. You know, in the series you can see him shoot a German from a horseback grabbing the Luger. Well, that part you may erase from your memory, because I believe he picked it up.
The Luger portion, yes, but he actually did shoot a German on horseback.
Okay.
That Carwood had written about. So that incident did occur, but what happened was during the Crossroads fight in Holland, Hubler, after they were done the initial engagement, managed to acquire a Belgian 32 pistol, and Belgian 32s don't have safeties, so he had a propensity of playing with it in his pocket. He would keep it in his pocket. It was something he always wanted to capture a pistol, and he had kept it in his pocket. And as he was moving from hole to hole, talking to the fellas, he came up to a tree where it was a little bit low hanging branch. They had snow on the branch, and he had bumped into it, and the snow had fell down the back of his jacket. So as he shrugged his shoulders to shrug the snow out of his jacket, the pistol fired. And it severed his artery in his leg. And they did try to save him, but unfortunately Don passed. He was part of what was called the Ohio contingent. Johnny Martin, Shep Howell, Rob Rader, and Don Hubler were the Ohio contingent. And just to tell a little insight into the kind of guys these were. So on Christmas Eve, Rob Rader, who was the first squad leader in 1st Platoon, and Don Hubler, who was his assistant squad leader, decided that they didn't want their guys pulling what's called LPOP. It's listening post, observation post. Typically, you'll put a few small posts out in front of your lines, act like a tripwire if the enemy attacks. You pull them back, and then you know they're coming.
Are you live? Oh, you're live. I didn't know you were live.
Action.
Where's my glasses?
When E Company moved to this line, the ground was not frozen yet. But it was not easy to dig these holes because it's saturated with roots. So I often ask like the veterans, like, hey, how long did it take you to dig like a foxhole or a trench like this? And they say, oh, here, Reg, well, that depends on it. Because it goes much faster when we're shooting at you. Kind of thing would happen. But you should imagine this, like the holes you see here. Now this is like a machine gun position, T-shaped hole. The other ones is like a 2 or 3 man foxhole. When it got colder at the end of December, and especially the coldest period, the 2nd and the 3rd week of January, you know, these guys had to sleep on top of each other, like 2 or 3 guys, so that the one at the bottom would get warm and then try to rotate. First thing to think of was cover the floor with branches, because you had this upcoming groundwater. And you don't want to get soaking wet in the very first moment you get into your hotel room here. Okay. Another problem was formed after the snow came in, was that to plant into the wall of the foxhole and use it as a step to move out. Holes were dug in the sides as well, where sometimes they put some personal belonging in it. A very nice story happened about 6 years ago when a veteran from the 501st Regiment came back to Bastogne for the very first time since the war. And his name was Bert Collier, and he had his old company mate with him, Bobby Hunter. And I was just a little bit down that road. And a friend of ours from the Netherlands brought him back. And Bobby, they were driving up this road, and Bobby suddenly said, "Stop the car, because I want to see my pox, man." So they pulled over. Bobby gave him directions and said, "Walk in there, and you will see like 3 foxholes like a triangle." He said, "The one in the middle, that was mine." So they got out of the car, walked into the woods here, and there it was, just as he described it. But still, they weren't quite believing that he was right. And Bobby showed a photo of him taken here in the woods, because he was a radio bearer. He was a radio guy, and with a radio with a long antenna that did not work in these woods. So he said every night I had to go to my platoon commander, Kurt Calder, and visit him in his command post to get instructions. And he said that was about 180 yards that way. There's a creek that meanders through the woods, and the other side is American foxholes as well, but all round ones. There's one really big and square, with a small hole next to it, which they use as a garbage dump. So my buddy from the Netherlands took the guys down and they found the creek, they crossed it, and there was a square foxhole. And the following day they came back and started searching the hole, and they pulled out a small pan and a bottle with some liquor still in it. And all of a sudden they were like, hey, what's this? And they found a frame of some glasses. And Bird is standing like, hey, these are my glasses. So he had to dig holes in his trench and put some stuff in there, and then all of a sudden they were moved out, and he was unable to collect it. Get back. Now the conditions here were terrible, mostly covered with branches over trees, except for Colonel Strayer. Colonel Strayer had a, how to say, found out a different system by using frozen bodies to get some more protection from incoming rounds.
And he said, I got so callous in the way the war had been going, because Clancy had been a Tacoma man as well. And he said I would sit on top of a German corpse and just eat my pay rations and not think twice about it. They'd just been worn down so much by that.
Another anecdote I want to add is about Forrest Good. When we met him in 2005 here in the woods, we asked him, because we watched the miniseries, of course, and you can see the artillery barrages coming in, and that lasts for about a minute or so. So we asked him, how long did it take for real? And Forrest Good said, well, when the Germans started shooting at us, we didn't take a look at our watch. We just dove in our foxhole and started praying. But he estimated an average of 2 to 3 hours of artillery barrages coming in.
There's another note about Forrest Good that he had a unique ability as a machinist type guy, and actually took a piece of an airplane wing or fuselage and manufactured something that could turn an M1 carbine into a fully automatic weapon, which the men of Easy really desired that, and he would convert these M1s and actually brought it back. They said, how did you do that? Because the government couldn't figure out how to do it. And he was the one who invented some kind of just a little piece of metal that went in there and converted a single, semi-automatic into an automatic.
Now, as for digging these holes, it was one problem. Keeping warm was another problem. Another thing they had to endure was, food. They're completely surrounded with barely no food. Hygiene was something else. To brush their teeth, they used sometimes the twigs from a tree to do it. After the first supply drops on the 23rd of December, when the fog had lifted, they got some extra toothbrushes. There were like 1 or 2 for each platoon, Joe, right? Yeah. Well, platoon was about 40 guys, so you better be the first one in line. It's like sharing underwear, I think, at the time.
Yeah, just to give everybody an idea of the scale of the size of the piece, I think 56 total in the company by the time they got to Bastogne.
And some of those were replacements.
Replacement troopers like Herb Seward and a few of the other guys. But yeah, by the time they were done with the Battle of the Bulge, they were down about 56 guys in the company. You could literally put them in like 3 deuce and a halves, and that was it. So I mean, you're down almost 1/3 left of the company by the time they had finished Bastogne.